What is up, RPG nerds? I'm finally back. It's been like 2 months because Christmas and all that. Sorry about that, gang, but we're going to get right into this video ranking all of the traditional Final Fantasy games by their battle system. Last time we did story, this time we're doing the battle system. I'm going to start doing some like New Year's videos, like ranking all the games I've played and stuff, get one of those videos out there. But anyway, yeah, we're going to do this right now. So let's get into this. We'll go in order. I don't know what this order is. I always order them in my files, and then they just get so messed up every single time. So that bothers me. But anyway, let's start with Final Fantasy I. In terms of battle system, I'm going to throw this in C tier. I think it's about as just there. I mean, like, it's totally good and all that, but it's not. Also, this is not going to be about the customization. So, like, let's say, I don't know, Final Fantasy VI. It's less about the espers and like the menu stuff, more about how the actual fights are. So like the bosses, the enemies, how the actual battle system is, so all that stuff. So yeah, it's not actually about how you're progressing in like the menu, for example. So like junction system's not going to be part of FF8, if that makes sense. That'll be a different video. Anyway, for Final Fantasy 1 though, it's pretty simple. I mean, just there's not that much you can do in battle, to be honest. It's not too much strategy. I mean, there's some great bosses in some of the remake versions, but it's it's pretty. I mean, it is Final Fantasy 1. I mean, I can't give it too much crap, but I mean, it really isn't the best. It'll probably go maybe down to D later, but for now it's gonna go in C. Alright, Final Fantasy 2. So, Final Fantasy 1, actually, I will give Final Fantasy 1, it does have some iconic bosses, like the Four Fiends. Chaos is actually a really good final boss, so it's pretty good. I don't think putting in D tier would make any sense, but I think it is the definition. It's really the benchmark. Like, if it's better than Final Fantasy 1, then it's above average, I feel like. Because I feel like Final Fantasy 1 is a pretty average RPG in terms of combat. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great. Anyway, so Final Fantasy 2 is a bit more controversial. A lot of people don't like it that much, of course. And I really love Final Fantasy 2, actually. I'm one of the biggest defenders of Final Fantasy 2, if you've seen on the channel before, but I really enjoy Final Fantasy 2. Now, in terms of battle system, I think I'm going to put it right above 1 in the C tier. Could change. One thing I do like about 1 and 2, though, is you get those fights where there's like so many enemies. You don't really get that in most of the other Final Fantasy games, so that is kind of fun, actually. You just have like so many enemies on screen, and when you use a full-on like hit the whole group with a fire spell or whatever, and it just destroys them. But or fire in the case of an upgraded fire spell, or whatever in the case of Final Fantasy 2. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, these games are pretty equal, I think. I think Final Fantasy 2 takes a slight edge for me, though, just because I yeah, I think it does, because I like the enemy designs better in Final Fantasy 2. The Emperor is a great boss. He's fun to fight. But not counting the progression system, though, makes it... Because I actually really like the way you level up in Final Fantasy 2. But if you're not counting that and the fact that you keep getting upgrades after battle, I'm actually going to give it to 1. I'm going to give it to 1 in this category, slightly. Just because the boss designs are more iconic. There's more... I feel like Final Fantasy 2 is definitely harder the first time you play it, but once you understand Final Fantasy 2, the challenge gets thrown out the window. Whereas Final Fantasy 1... sometimes it's still a little, not really, but like at the beginning of the game when you're trying to get over to Provoca, it is slightly difficult. Maybe the Marsh Cave. I mean, it's really pretty easy game still, but the remake versions at least. Yeah. So both these games are pretty basic in terms of the combat. So yeah. All right, Final Fantasy 3. It depends on the version for me. I think that while I like the job system, and I love a lot of the stuff about the 3D remake, the battles go very slow. so that bothers me. But in the Pixel remasters, and they did fix that, and so I think depending on the version, I don't know though. Let's see, actual combat. I mean, all these games are pretty similar, so mostly coming down to boss fights. Again, I'm trying not to factor the actual progression in because I want to make a different video for that, because I think they are two separate things, the battle system and the way you level up. And these three games share a very similar battle system, just by the nature of them being all traditional turn-based. But I think Final Fantasy III... thing about 3, I mean, you just have more abilities in general. I think I'm going to throw 3 up in the B tier. There's just more to do in battle. There's more ways to strategize and all that stuff. I mean, if we're counting progression in, I really like the system in 2, which is, I know, controversial, but when you combine the two together, I think 2 has the edge for me over 1 and 3. But when we're just going straight battle system, I mean, I still think 1 is the most iconic bosses, but 3 has a lot of fun ones, and just, again, there's so much more ways you can strategize in general, so, yeah. Alright, next we got Final Fantasy IV, the first ATB game, the battle system that defined the series for so long. I mean, we all know. If you're watching this video, you probably know all about that. I don't need it. Anyway, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy IV has definitely the most iconic bosses, and the ATB system of these 4 so far, the bosses are awesome. The battle system, like, in terms of... Sorry, this is hard. I didn't realize it was going to be as hard to not talk about the customization, but I'm challenging myself. So, in 3, like... I think 3 has more strategy, at least the later versions, than 4. Although it depends on what version of 4 you're playing. Dang it, I really should have separated them. But 4, okay. So for Final Fantasy 3 on the DS, I probably would put it here because of how slow it is. But the Pixel Remaster, I put it here. You know, for now, I'm actually going to... I'll average them out. So that's there. I might move things around later, but I still think 3 is pretty... If we're averaging out the Pixel Remaster and the 3D version. But this, Final Fantasy IV, I would say... I mean, the 3D version adds so much depth to the augment system. I really love that. The bosses are just so iconic. Although... Okay, never mind. I'm going to move this back up here. Anyway, sorry. Final Fantasy IV, I think, has to go in the A tier, at least for now. I think there's just, so many iconic bosses. And it's more simple than 3 in some ways. But it's just... It's more memorable. Like, boss fights have more gimmicks. There's more... Like, your characters do change around. And because you... are set in a certain party, you do have to strategize without just changing your jobs. I mean, that is also strategizing. So I guess you're strategizing either way. But I think 4 just... It has not as much, like, variety as 3. But in terms of... I mean, also introduced the ATB system, which changes things up. And it did a really good job first time around. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put 4 in A tier. Yeah, bosses are awesome in that game. Especially the 3D versions. I mean, with the 3D versions, it's honestly, I mean, the augment system just adds so much. So, I'd say if we're going 3D version, it'd probably, honestly, maybe go up in S tier. But with... we're averaging it out like I did with F3. So we're going to put it in the A tier. Alright, Final Fantasy IV, the After Years. There's a lot to say that isn't great about this game. But I think its combat is pretty decent. Bands are cool. You have so many different party members that you can choose from. yeah, again, bands. Um, it really mixes things up, especially if you're playing the PSP version. The final dungeon is so long, so you get so much time to change around your party members and stuff. Although bands aren't quite as fun as augments for me, but I mean moon phases are really cool too and stuff. I don't really like Final Fantasy IV the After Years for a lot of reasons, but I think the combat is pretty solid. I'm gonna throw it up in the A tier for now. Um, Although the bosses are bad. The bosses and enemies are pretty unoriginal. So, you know what? I'm gonna move it down to B. I'm gonna move it down to B for now. I think that's a pretty fair pick for that one. All right, Final Fantasy V. I have my issues with the job system. I think only having one skill slot, it drives me nuts. I'm more of like a Blue Dragon type job system fan where you have like so many skill slots and you really get to strategize. Because I feel like when you're so limited in Final Fantasy V, you don't get to strategize that much. But I don't have any problems. I have problems with the job system, but I don't have any problems with like the ability. Like I have problems with progressing with the job system, but the abilities themselves are awesome. The variety is great, and the bosses in Final Fantasy V. I mean, Final Fantasy V, I think, has the best boss variety of any game so far, and probably top 2 or 3 of any game on this list, if not the best. So I think Final Fantasy V as a battle system is going to go up in the S tier for now. I think it's just really, really good. The bosses are awesome. I love bosses like, I don't know, the Soul Cannon is great. I mean, Gilgamesh, obviously. Atomos. All the different summons, the Shinryu and Omega. I mean, this game is loaded with awesome boss fights. I think. I mean, Final Fantasy IV, I'd say has. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty close, but I mean, 5 just has so much more variety in what you can do in battle and stuff. I'm glad I'm expanding on myself a little more. Final Fantasy 1 and 2 are a little difficult to talk about because their battle systems aren't really that. I mean, 1, there's just not much to say, and I mean, 2, all the stuff that I like is tied back to the leveling up mostly. So, yeah. All right. Final Fantasy VI, again, with Final Fantasy V, has awesome designs and all that. But Final Fantasy VI, I think, is a perfect blend of 4 and 5 in terms of the combat. I think you've got customization, but you've also got like these people that, I mean these people, sorry. I mean, you've got a lot of customization, but you also have, even if you take away that like Esper system, you've still got a good core battle system with lots of cool bosses. I think Final Fantasy VI is our best so far. I'm going to put it up in S. I think it has the best variety of bosses. I mean, there's more, not necessarily gimmicks, but just the bosses are more interesting, I feel like. But then 5? 6 or 5? That's hard, actually. For the battle system. You know, actually, I'm going to give the edge to 5. I think 5 has a few more interesting boss fights overall, now that I think about it. I think the story bosses are a little cooler in 6, but there's a lot of just throwaway boss fights I don't care about in 6. So, yeah, in terms of that, again, these are all relative so far, so I'll probably start moving things down as we move along, but yeah, that's that for now. All right, Final Fantasy VII. I don't like this game as much as a lot of people do, but I will definitely say there's something magical about the battles for some reason in this game. I don't know why, but like the menu and everything just comes together and it's just awesome. I mean, I love the goofy little sprites in battle, and I love like Barrett's gun animation, and the limit breaks just add a lot. The bosses are awesome. Final Fantasy VII, I think, is number 1 so far, and I don't really like Final Fantasy VII that much, but it has nothing to do with the battle system. It's mostly story stuff I don't like, but you can watch my story ranking for that. But no, not F. Oops. Final Fantasy VII, yeah. The battle system's just magical for some reason. I don't know why, but I think it's just the goofy sprites and the music. The music, really, like every battle just feels like an epic, like a war of momentous proportions. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but anyway, Final Fantasy VII is our best so far. I don't want to move 6 down yet, but it's probably going to move down, but we'll see. 6. Yeah, I think we're going to keep it there for now, but 7's definitely the best so far. Yeah. All right, Final Fantasy VIII is an interesting one. The limit breaks are really fun to exploit and hit like a million Zell Armageddon fists and hit so many Renzo Zukins and hit with the gunblade and all that. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I like 8's battle system overall, but I think 8 and 2, I love the weird, goofy customization, but it's not actually as fun once you get in a battle. I think I'm going to throw it right below Final Fantasy IV. I don't think there's as many interesting fights in this game. I think most of the best boss fights are very backloaded, like the final dungeon and stuff. So I'm gonna put it right there. I think I love Final Fantasy VIII. It's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, but the battle system doesn't stand out quite as much as some of the other ones. It's good. I really like the limit breaks and stuff, but I think 4, 5, and 6 just have so many cool boss fights, and 8, I'm just struggling to remember a lot of them. I mean, I ranked the bosses recently. Well, kind of recently. It was like 50 days ago, which is crazy, but kind of recently. So yeah, it was not really. Yeah, it doesn't have the best boss fights. All right, Final Fantasy IX. Oh boy, I love Final Fantasy IX's story, but its battle system is awful. I'm not even kidding. I'm putting it in the F tier. It is so unbelievably slow. Entering battle takes so long. Waiting for everything takes so long. It's just obscene. And there's not even that many cool abilities. I'm sorry, but I mean, any day give me Final Fantasy 1 or 2 combat. And grinding also is so boring in this game because it takes so long to enter a battle. Luckily, the encounter rate is pretty low in this game, but if you're trying to grind, it's abysmal. It's bad. I mean, none of the characters really have any interesting abilities. Like, the customization is okay with the magic stones or whatever, but I love Final Fantasy IX, but its battle system is utter garbage. I don't think I'll ever play Final Fantasy IX again. I played it once. I will gladly... I mean, if the remake fixes it, I'm sure it will. But, I mean, even the newer versions where you speed it up or whatever, like, they didn't... Like, it's like a 1.2 times speed up. And even if it were 3 times speed... I mean, I played on an emulator, and I put it on 3 times speed a lot, and it still felt way too slow. It was bad. And there's just nothing interesting to do in Final Fantasy IX. I'm sorry, but I mean, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 interested me way more with their battles. I mean, there's really not any good. I mean, there's cool story fights, but even the boss fights aren't very interesting. I mean, the music is good, but that's about it. I like 9 a lot, but its combat drives me nuts. So, sorry anyone who likes Final Fantasy IX combat. I don't really get it, but hey, more power to you if you like it. I wish I liked it. All right. Final Fantasy X is going right on top for me. So many iconic bosses. I remember pretty much every boss from this game. They're so fun. This is one of my favorite. The CTB battle system is like my favorite type of battle system. I really love CTB battle systems. And Final Fantasy X just does it so well. I mean, I still like, I don't know, Blue Dragon better. I mean, I love Blue Dragon, but I think there are a couple games that do the CTB battle system better than 10. But in terms of relative to this list, I think, yeah, 10 is definitely one of the best here. Just the bosses, the combat itself, everything about it is just, to me, far outweighs anything else so far on this list. I mean, these are only one tier apart, and I'd still say 10 has like 5 times better of a battle system than 7. I mean, I loved every boss fight, every battle. The only thing that was annoying was the fact they had to switch in people over and over again to get the, what's it called, points, the AP. But I mean, even still, it didn't bother me that much because I liked that you could switch characters around. So I don't know, overall I was pretty satisfied with Final Fantasy X. Alright, Final Fantasy X-2. The only problem, I really like the battle system in Final Fantasy X-2. I think the only problems are, one, it takes so long to level up your classes for some reason. I just feel like it took so unbelievably long in this game for some reason. I don't really know. I don't know if everyone else felt that. Maybe I was just so bored of all the bad side quests in this game and the bad story, and I was just like, okay, you're being way too slow, game. But maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it was that. It might have been that, but it felt like it took so long to level up in this game. And, I mean, I have a lot of issues with Final Fantasy X-2, but, again, that has to do with the jobs, not with the battling. And the battling itself is definitely, like, the best ATB system. I mean, the combat is so easy and the bosses are pretty forgettable, but the actual system itself is fantastic. But with the difficulty being way too easy and with the fights not being as memorable and all that stuff, I'm going to put it right here. I think that the system itself is fantastic. I really liked messing around with the characters. I also liked that you literally have this whole like creature capturing thing. I mean, I think it was very weirdly done in a way that was not interesting, but actually playing as the monsters was fun after you got them. I don't know, there was a whole thing there that was very intriguing, but I think it was done. I think the battle system itself is pretty fantastic, but I don't think the actual bosses and stuff, but I think it barely pushes above 5 for me. And I think at this point, for now, 6 is going to move down to A, just to keep the bell curve. But yeah, I might move it back up. I probably will. We'll see. All right, next let's move into the Final Fantasy Dimensions games. Final Fantasy Dimensions, I think this game, controversial take, but I think the job system in this game is far better than 5's. I think it's so much more fun to mess around with the jobs in this game for me. I mean, I think 5 is a better selection of jobs in general, but just, again, having that one skill slot makes me hate that job system. And Final Fantasy Dimensions really fixed that for me, where different skills take up a different amount of slots, so you can actually use some slots. So that was cool. That made me really enjoy Final Fantasy Dimensions, that you could actually have multiple skills on each character. But again, but it does actually tie into the battles more because you have all those different abilities. You also have P abilities, which are like combo moves. Final Fantasy Dimensions. The battles and the boss fights aren't very memorable, but there's a lot of abilities. I mean, there's combo attacks, and I think they are... I mean, I don't think the combo attacks themselves are better than the ones in Final Fantasy IV, the After Years, but the battles are more fun, but also, like, none of the bosses are memorable whatsoever. I think this is Final Fantasy Dimensions is one where the customization system would be more up there, but the battle system I'm going to put in the A tier, and I'm going to move Final Fantasy VIII down to the B tier. I think that looks good. Yeah. I think that's good. I like the combo moves. They're not quite as good as the bands in Final Fantasy IV, but Final Fantasy Dimensions just has that edge of so many different job abilities, and I think that the battling in this game is pretty great. I really wish Final Fantasy Dimensions had a little bit better of a story, and it has its issues, but I think that's a really good game. All right, Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, it has a CTB system. This game is pretty slept on. I really like Final Fantasy Dimensions 2. I honestly probably prefer it to the first one. I think it's a great game. I mean, the original Gacha one is trash, but Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, I mean, I remember a lot of bosses from this game, and I remember a lot of battles. I don't remember very many specific battles from other games, but I do from Dimensions 2, and I think that the moves in this game are really fun. It's a CTB. I really enjoy the battle system in this game, which might be crazy, but there's a lot of cool things you can do, a lot of different abilities, kind of a little materia type system. Although, actually, I think I'm going to move Final Fantasy IV above 6. I think it just has more interesting. Sorry, this is not related to Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, but it was kind of bothering me now that I look back on it. Just 4 has so many amazing bosses, and 6 doesn't have as many, and that was just bothering me. Anyway, Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, I'll probably put right above Dimensions. I want to put it higher, but it has some issues. I feel like there's not as much strategy. Hold up. Actually, I think I'm going to move it above FF6. That might be crazy, but I think this game has some awesome battle mechanics, and it being a CTB does help a lot for me. So that's probably a crazy take for a lot of people, but to be fair, most people haven't even played this game and given it a chance since they heard it was gacha, and it's literally not anymore. It's just its own. I mean, it's a pretty good game. I mean, the battles and the characters, and it's a pretty charming game. I mean, obviously the fact that you can't walk around is a kind of an issue, but it's still a good game. But anyway, let's go to World of Final Fantasy next. Oh, this one makes me sad. So I love the customization in this game because it's monster catching plus fear grids. And the battles are like CTB, if I remember correctly. But the battles themselves are just kind of boring. I just don't remember being too interested in the battles, which is weird because I feel like it has a lot of elements that would make me enjoy it, but it just didn't really stick with me as much. But I do think it's still B tier, so I'm going to move Final Fantasy III down into the C tier, and I'm going to put World of Final Fantasy right here. I think it might just be the fact that since you're stacked, you only get 2 moves, and just, I don't know. I really like the behind the scenes, like customizing your different monsters and stacking them up, and I really like World of Final Fantasy, but once you actually get into fights, it's not quite as interesting, but I loved planning for fights. So, again, I want to make that customization system video soon, so be on the lookout for that, but that will be more about that. But, yeah, I think World of Final Fantasy had a lot of elements that I liked. I like the ideas here, I like the CTB, I like the stacking, I like all that stuff, but I don't think it was a lot of things I liked, but for some reason they didn't come together that much, so, I don't know. A little weird, but it's true. Alright, now we've got the tactics games. This is going to be interesting. Okay, I really think that all of these are... I think that in terms of tactics games, I'm going to go a little out of order here. I think that Advance has the worst battle system. I don't really remember much from Advance. And since there's 2 other games with Advance, I don't really remember anything here. That might be bad of me, but I'm going to put it right here. I know it's a tactics game. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do, but Tactics 1 and A2 both stand out a lot for me in terms of the battle systems, and this game doesn't as much. So, yeah, I'm gonna move Final Fantasy Dimensions down to the B tier, but Tactics. I mean, I still say it's a pretty interesting. I mean, it's still the sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics after all, but I feel like Tactics, I mean, they moved a little bit away from the crazy chaoticness of Tactics, so it's more balanced. But it also, Tactics A2 basically takes the foundation of the changes they made in Advance and makes it better. So Advance goes for more like different like race type, like Final Fantasy 12, more like type stuff, and the whole. Did they start with the judges in this one? I think they did. Sorry, I don't. This game's forgettable for me. I think they did the judges though. I think it moves away from what makes Tactics 1's battle system so chaotic and crazy, but it doesn't execute it as well as A2. So for me, it's kind of stuck in a little bit of an awkward middle, where it's still fun, but it's not like the best. So, yeah. I just can't ever see myself being like, oh, let's play Final Fantasy Tactics Advance again, because the battle system. Like, I just don't see myself doing that. Whereas the other two, I do. Final Fantasy Tactics, I'm going to throw up in the S+ tier. I think this game is so unbalanced, but that kind of makes it a chaotic, fun mess. It's definitely a mess, the battle system. I mean, it is tactical, but it's still kind of a mess. Whereas I feel like A2 is a little bit more balanced. There's no Orlando. Orlando, or however people want to pronounce it. There's so many. I've heard a couple different things. But anyway. Sidolphus. We'll go with that. Anyway. Tactics is tactical, but it's also a fun, chaotic mess. It's also pretty hard, and the battles do last forever, which was annoying sometimes. But I mean, in terms of just how good the actual battle system is, I have to give it over. I still think the games in S+ are like 5 times better than the ones in S. I mean, like Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy Tactics kind of smoke all these other games for me. I remember specific battles. Again, that is a big draw, especially with the creativity of the maps and stuff. It really does help. I still think Final Fantasy X CTB, I just love that so much that I will put that above Tactics. But I still think like Tactics is just fantastic. I mean, I would say I wish there was a little more balance, to the point where sometimes I just feel like I was dying for random stuff, or like I was just completely smoking the competition. But in terms of how chaotic and fun it is, there's not really any other game I've played that's quite like it. So yeah. Now, controversially probably, I think I even liked Tactics A2 even better. I think that Tactics A2 takes everything about Advance and just makes it more memorable and more cool for me. I love the different races and their different abilities, and the fact that you learn from weapons like Final Fantasy IX, but it isn't trash like Final Fantasy IX. But Tactics A2, I just loved the battle system in this game. I know a lot of people don't like the judges, but I liked there being a little bit of I liked the fact that there were more things you had to do in battle other than just, fight things. I liked the other win conditions. I really liked there's so many skills, and I did like that there's still a bit more, like everyone can be everything in Tactics, and I don't always like that in games where everyone can be everything. I think that typically makes the game worse when you bring someone to battle and you could technically just have someone who's mastered everything. Whereas in A2, I mean, the different races mean you have different jobs. I think that's awesome. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I do really enjoy that, actually. So, hot take, I think Tactics A2 is the second best one on here. And I really liked the different types of battles. I mean, you go to obviously the story in A2 is absolute crap compared to Tactics, but the battle system itself, the battling is awesome. I mean, you go to your pub or whatever, and you get the tavern, not the pub. You go to the tavern, and you get your different missions, and they're just like 6 completely different missions, and you're like, dang, this is going to be fun. So you go fight the red mage, and you go fight this antlion with like 600 HP. I mean, I don't know. Tactics A2 has a special place in my heart for the battle system. I mean, I think it's awesome. I like that it's a little bit more polished than Tactics. As much as I love the chaoticness of Tactics, I like the more balanced, different approach that A2 takes on the same formula. So, yep, there it is. All right, that is my list. This kind of looks like a weird dude with an eyeball right here, and this is like his mouth. Like, he looks like a weird Pac-Man. But anyway, this is my list. I'm sure I offended somebody's soul by putting something somewhere. I'm sure somebody's going to be mad about A2. Final Fantasy Dimensions 2 above FF6 will probably drive someone nuts. But anyway, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day. Sorry it's been so long since I posted. I've been pretty busy. I've also been busy making my own RPG, so I'll make sure everyone's updated on that. That's going to be new talk of the town on the channel soon here, but I want to pull like a whole Chained Echoes ad campaign type thing for that eventually. But yeah, anyway, thank you all for watching this video, and have a fantastic day. Peace out, RPG nerds.